Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something pretty fascinating today. We're looking at the legacy of St. Gabriel, specifically in Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity.
Ooh, that's a great one.
It is. And to get into it, we're going to be drawing from excerpts of a document called The Legacy of Kulebi and the Feast of St. Gabriel. Now get this. We'll uncover that Gabriel isn't just some messenger, He's a protector, a powerful warrior angel, even a revealer of divine knowledge.
Yeah, it's really interesting how Ethiopian Orthodox tradition kind of expands on those biblical stories we might already know, gives us a more well-rounded look at who Gabriel is.
Totally. I mean, most folks know him from the Annunciations, but this deep dive, we're going way beyond that. We'll see him in Satan's rebellion, in Daniel's visions, even at creation itself.
Okay, so right off the bat, the text throws us into this super dramatic scene. Satan's rebellion against God.
Yeah.
And who's standing firm, unwavering in his faith. Gabriel, of course.
Yeah.
He even rallies the other angels, saying, "We shall persist till we realize our Creator." Powerful stuff. You can see right there why he's considered a leader among the angels.
It's bold, right? Not just following orders, but defending God's will. Sets the stage for his whole character.
Absolutely. And especially in Ethiopian Orthodox tradition, it's interesting how this early act of defiance against Satan, foreshadows his role as a warrior angel. We'll get into that later, but that idea of him as this force against evil is right there from the beginning.
Okay, so we've got Gabriel, the defender of God's will, but then there's the messenger side, right? The Annunciations.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone knows about them, but I'm curious about your take, knowing what we do about Gabriel now.
Well, when you look at both Annunciations, to Zacharias about John the Baptist and to Mary about Jesus, it's clear Gabriel's more than just a messenger. He's heralding these massive turning points in human history. These aren't just deliveries, they're pronouncements that really changed the course of religious belief.
And what strikes me is when he talks to Zacharias, Gabriel reveals prophecies about John the Baptist. Like, that suggests angels have knowledge of the future, right?
Exactly. It adds a whole new layer to his role. It's not just about relaying information, it's revealing divine insights into what's to come.
And that makes me wonder, if they have that knowledge, what else do they know? I mean, Gabriel even calms the other angels down at creation when they're confused about who created them. Talk about insider knowledge.
Right. He tells them to wait, let God reveal himself. And of course, that's when we get that famous, "Let there be light." So Gabriel's not only there at the dawn of creation, but he has this understanding of God's plan that even other angels don't.
It makes you think, what does Ethiopian Orthodox tradition say about angels knowing the future? Definitely something to dig into. But for now, let's get back to Gabriel. He's a messenger, a witness to creation, but he also helps humans understand, really difficult spiritual concepts, right?
Oh, absolutely. The story of Daniel and his crazy visions is a perfect example. God sends Gabriel to Daniel to explain what they all mean. Imagine how overwhelming it must have been for Daniel to experience those visions without context.
I can't even imagine. It's like assembling furniture without the instructions, right? You've got all the pieces, but no clue how they go together. So what does Gabriel tell him?
He says, "O Daniel, I now come forth to give you skill and understanding." But basically, he's this divine interpreter, bridging the gap between God's knowledge and what we can understand. Essential when you're dealing with complex spiritual stuff.
Like breaking down those difficult concepts into something we can grasp. Makes you wish we had a Gabriel around today when life gets confusing, right?
Totally. And, this interpreter role ties right into how the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church celebrates St. Gabriel. They have not one, but two major feasts dedicated to him. One on Tehesis 19, the other on Hamel 19.
Two major feasts. Okay, tell me, what makes each feast unique? What do they say about how Ethiopians view Gabriel?
Well, the one on Tehesis 19, it commemorates the deliverance of those three guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, from the fiery furnace.
Oh yeah, that story.
Right, it's from the book of Daniel, and it directly links Gabriel to acts of divine protection.
So he's not just explaining visions, he's actively saving people.
Exactly. And while we're not sure exactly what Hamel 19 commemorates, it's probably tied to other events or miracles linked to him. The fact that there are two major feasts, though, that shows how important he is in the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition.
It's almost like each feast shows us a different side of his power, his influence, and we're seeing he's so much more than just a simple messenger. Makes me curious, what other roles, what other attributes are associated with him in Ethiopian Orthodoxy?
Well, the document calls him a protector, a warrior angel, even as the one who presides over all that is powerful.
Wow, those are some serious titles. And it keeps mentioning him being the protector of something called the Pearl. What's that all about?
Yeah, the text is a little vague about the pearl, but there's this quote that might give us a clue. It says, "I am Gabriel the angel, the protector of those who shall carry the pearl from the body of Adam, even to the belly of Hannah, so that it may keep from servitude and pollution you wherein the pearl shall dwell."
Okay, that's a lot to unpack. Definitely raises more questions than it answers. But it sounds like this pearl is incredibly important, passed down through generations. What could it symbolize? What's its significance in Ethiopian Orthodoxy?
Well, that's what we're going to get into next.
Yeah.
The pearl is a fascinating piece of this puzzle that we need to explore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that pearl, it's definitely wrapped in mystery, isn't it? It's so interesting how it's described as being passed down, like from the body of Adam even to the belly of Hannah.
Almost like a secret lineage protecting something sacred. So how do Ethiopians interpret this pearl?
Well, there isn't just one answer, but a common thought is that it symbolizes purity. Specifically, the purity of the Virgin Mary and her role in, bringing Jesus into the world.
Okay, I can see that. So Gabriel protecting the pearl is kind of like him protecting the lineage leading to Jesus.
Exactly. And that ties back beautifully to his role in the Annunciation. It's not just announcing Jesus' birth, it's safeguarding the very possibility of that birth, making sure the pearl stays pure, protected.
That adds so much depth, almost like a cosmic chess game with Gabriel making these strategic moves to ensure the divine plan unfolds.
I like that. That's a great analogy. You really get the sense of purpose behind his actions. He's not just reacting. He's shaping events based on, a divine plan.
But it makes you wonder about free will, right? If Gabriel's intervening to protect this lineage, does that mean our choices are already made? Or is there still room for our own agency in all of this?
That's the age-old question, isn't it? Theologians have been debating that for centuries. No easy answer. But maybe, just maybe, Gabriel's story suggests it's not an either situation. Perhaps divine will and human choice, they can both exist, each one influencing the other in this intricate dance.
Definitely something to think about. And it reminds me of what we were saying before about Gabriel embodying both order and emotion. On one hand, he's there at creation, calming the angels, all reason and order. But then at the crucifixion, he's overcome with grief, wanting to destroy the world.
Right, that paradox is so fascinating. The embodiment of divine order, yet capable of such powerful emotion, even rage.
It's like two sides of the same coin, Makes him seem so relatable, even though he's an angel. Experiencing that full range of emotions, just like us.
It humanizes him, that's for sure. Reminds us that in our own lives, too. Order and chaos, reason and emotion, they're constantly interacting.
And his reaction at the crucifixion, wanting to destroy the world, how do Ethiopians interpret that? Seems pretty intense.
Well, some see it as righteous anger, the injustice of it all, Christ's suffering. But it's important to remember that God's love, ultimately, it stops Gabriel from actually going through with it, highlighting that even when faced with suffering, God's goal is redemption, not destruction.
It's a powerful message of hope. And it's interesting how that intense emotion leads him to, rend the curtain of the Holy of Holies with his sword.
Absolutely. That moment is so pivotal. It symbolizes this new era, a new access to God, removing those barriers that separated humanity from the divine.
It's almost like Gabriel, in his grief, inadvertently created this profound shift in the relationship between humanity and God.
Exactly. His emotional outburst, it becomes a catalyst for transformation. Reminds us that even the most unexpected things can lead to profound change. Speaking of transformations, what about those Ethiopian feasts dedicated to Gabriel? Do we know more about how they're celebrated?
Good point. We know Tehesis 19 is about the deliverance from the fiery furnace. But what about Hamli 19? What do these celebrations actually look like?
Well, while the document doesn't give us specifics about the rituals or anything, it does mention that the 19th of each month in the Ethiopian calendar, it's dedicated to commemorating St. Gabriel. Just imagine, a whole day each month.
Wow, that's incredible. Really speaks volumes about Gabriel's impact on the Ethiopian Orthodox faith. Generations of believers have celebrated him for centuries.
It's a true testament to the power of these ancient traditions. And, we can't forget Gabriel's warrior side. The document calls him the holder of the office of the direction of wars, implying some serious authority, serious power.
Sounds like a big deal in the angelic realm. So tell me more about this warrior side of Gabriel. What kind of wars are we even talking about?
Well, it goes on to say he presides over all that is powerful, which reinforces this image of him as a force to be reckoned with. This isn't just a title. It makes you wonder what these spiritual battles might actually look like. how he protects us from unseen threats.
Right, and this ties back to the mystery of the pearl, doesn't it? If he's protecting those who carry it, the stakes must be unbelievably high.
Absolutely. That pearl, it represents something incredibly valuable, spiritually speaking, something that has to be shielded from, well, corruption. Maybe it even symbolizes faith itself, something to be guarded, nurtured.
I love that. Each generation carrying the torch, passing the flame of faith forward, and Gabriel, he's there as their protector, making sure it survives.
It really highlights the idea that we're all part of something bigger, this continuous line of believers connected by this shared responsibility.
So we've got this defender, messenger, interpreter, warrior, protector. It's pretty amazing, right? I mean, is there anything this angel doesn't do?
He's definitely a multifaceted figure, that's for sure. But what's really interesting to me is how his story intersects with time. Think about it. He's there at creation, interacts with people throughout history, and he's even connected to the second coming.
Wow, yeah. It's like he transcends time, weaving together the past, present, and future.
Exactly. He seems to operate outside of our normal understanding of time, maybe existing in a place where past, present, and future, they're all intertwined.
It's a mind-blowing idea. It makes you wonder about the nature of time itself, right? Is it truly linear? Or is there more to it than we can even grasp? It really makes you think, Gabriel existing in this reality outside of how we normally experience time.
Yeah, totally. And it challenges us to rethink how we see the spiritual dimension. It's not just some distant abstract thing. It's woven right into our lives. And figures like Gabriel, well, they make that connection feel real.
Speaking of real, I keep thinking about the pearl. The idea that Gabriel's protecting this lineage leading to Jesus, it adds another layer to his role in the Annunciation, right?
Absolutely. He's not just announcing Jesus' birth, he's protecting the very possibility of it, making sure the pearl remains pure, sacred. It's a powerful image, one that really resonates in Ethiopian Orthodox tradition.
Which reminds me, we talked about how the Ethiopian Orthodox Church dedicates the 19th of each month to commemorating St. Gabriel. Pretty remarkable, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. It shows how important he is to the faith. And while we don't know exactly what those monthly commemorations look like, what the rituals are, it's clear that Gabriel is still deeply revered in Ethiopian Orthodoxy. Churches named after him, icons depicting him, feasts celebrated with a lot of energy.
It's great to hear that these ancient traditions are still alive, even in our modern world.
I agree. It speaks to the power of faith and that deep connection people have to these ancient stories, these figures.
And thinking about the power of those stories, is there anything else about how Gabriel is seen in Ethiopian Orthodox communities today that might surprise people?
What often surprises people is how Gabriel's story reminds them that the spiritual and physical, they're connected. His actions don't just have spiritual effects, they impact the physical world too.
Can you give me an example of what you mean?
Well, look at the Annunciation. It's not just words being spoken. It's a moment that sets in motion the incarnation of God in human form. Gabriel's message literally shapes reality as we know it.
Whoa, yeah. That's a really interesting perspective. It makes his role so much bigger than just a messenger, right? He's like a catalyst for divine action in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that idea pushes us to reconsider how we see the spiritual, It's not something way out there. It's intertwined with our lives, and figures like Gabriel, they make that connection so real.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I keep coming back to that paradox we talked about with Gabriel, the angel who embodies both order and, well, really raw emotion.
It's what makes him so compelling, isn't it? Divine order, yet capable of such deep grief and anger.
It's like those two things are always there, in tension, not just in Gabriel, but in all of us. It makes him feel more human, I guess, more relatable.
And maybe that's why these ancient stories are so timeless, so relevant to everyone. They reflect how complex human experience is, even as they point to something bigger than ourselves.
This deep dive has been truly eye-opening. We've gone from heavenly battles to those divine pronouncements, from creation to, well, the depths of human emotion. We've seen how multifaceted St. Gabriel is: defender, messenger, interpreter, warrior, protector. It's clear that his legacy in Ethiopian Orthodoxy is much richer, much more complex than most people realize.
It's been a fascinating journey. I hope our listeners have a new appreciation for the depth, the beauty of Ethiopian Orthodox traditions.
I'm sure they do. So to everyone listening, as you go about your day, maybe take a moment to think about what we've discussed. How does Gabriel's story speak to you? What can we learn from his faith, his courage, his compassion?
And remember, the world's full of mysteries just waiting to be discovered. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep seeking those deeper truths in everything you encounter.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity and the amazing legacy of St. Gabriel.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep wondering, keep that spirit of discovery alive.